When we speak about education, most people think of schools, degrees, and certificates, but true education does not end the moment you leave the classroom. Life itself becomes your teacher. Every day, every encounter, every difficulty is a lesson waiting to be learned. Self-education means you take responsibility for your own growth. You do not wait for someone to hand you the answers. Instead, you cultivate the discipline to search for them yourself. One page of a book each day, one meaningful conversation, one moment of reflection. These are small acts, but practiced daily, they become powerful transformations. The mistake many people make is believing that growth comes in great leaps. But wisdom is not built in a single night. It is constructed brick by brick through consistent practice. A seed does not become a tree in one day, but with daily sunlight, daily water, and daily patience, it becomes something unshakable. Daily self-education sharpens not only the mind but also the spirit. You learn humility, because you begin to realize how much you do not know. You learn patience, because mastery takes time, and you learn courage, because every step forward into the unknown expands your horizon. So I invite you to see each day as an opportunity. Ask yourself, what will I learn today? It doesn't need to be grand. A small lesson repeated daily is far more powerful than big lessons that are quickly forgotten. The power of daily self-education is that it keeps you moving, it keeps you alive, and it keeps you growing. When we hear the word education, our minds quickly travel back to classrooms, blackboards, and teachers. We imagine the smell of old books, the sound of lectures, the nervousness before exams. For many, education is tied to institutions, universities, degrees, and diplomas that supposedly define one's intelligence or potential. But in truth, education is not confined to walls and certificates. It is far greater, far deeper, and far more personal than that. Schools give us a foundation, but they cannot give us completion. They can equip us with information, but not necessarily with wisdom. The world outside the school is where the real examination begins. Life itself is the classroom, and every person you meet, every challenge you face, every mistake you make, they all become teachers. Some people stop learning after their formal studies are over, and this is one of the greatest tragedies of human growth. The moment you believe you know enough is the moment you begin to wither. A human being is not designed to stay stagnant. Just like water, when it stops flowing, it becomes stale. And so real education begins the day you recognize that learning has no end. In the monastery, this principle becomes clear. A monk may spend years repeating the same forms, the same movements, the same meditations. To the outside observer, it may seem repetitive, even unnecessary. But in each repetition there is refinement. In every cycle there is a new layer of understanding. Education in this sense is not about rushing to the next subject or finishing a syllabus. It is about allowing knowledge to sink into the body, into the mind, into the spirit. If you look at nature, it works the same way. A river does not carve a canyon in a single day. It takes years, centuries even, of persistent flow. So too with true education. The wisdom you carry with you is not the result of a single course or a single lecture, but of continuous exposure, reflection, and practice. And this kind of education cannot be confined to a classroom. It is lived in the rhythm of your daily choices, in how you handle conflict, in how you respond to pain, in how you treat another human being. Another aspect of education beyond school is the awareness that the world is constantly teaching us even when we do not ask for lessons. Every failure you encounter is a test paper handed to you by life. Every relationship is a subject with chapters that cannot be found in textbooks. Even silence can be a teacher, for in silence you learn to listen, not just to others but to yourself. Yet, many people ignore these daily opportunities to grow because they expect education to arrive in structured formats. They expect a mentor to guide them step by step, or a course to explain life's mysteries in neat bullet points. But the universe does not operate like that. Lessons come disguised, sometimes as difficulties, sometimes as loss, sometimes as unexpected joy. The question is not whether life is teaching you. The question is whether you are willing to learn. A closed mind sees only obstacles. An open mind sees education everywhere. When you begin to accept that education extends far beyond school, your perspective on growth changes completely. You no longer measure your intelligence by degrees or certificates, but by your ability to adapt, to understand, and to transform yourself. You begin to see every day as part of your training, every person as a potential guide, every mistake as a chance to refine your path. In this way, you live as a student forever, not in the sense of dependency, but in the sense of humility. To be a lifelong learner is to remain humble enough to say, I do not know everything, but I am willing to learn. And this willingness, this openness, is what separates those who continue to evolve from those who slowly decay. The greatest martial artists, the wisest philosophers, the most enlightened teachers, they all share this trait. They never stopped learning. And so, if you wish to unlock the true power of education, you must step beyond the limits of schools and institutions and begin to study the greatest textbook available, life itself. Responsibility for growth means recognizing that no one else can walk the path for you. From the moment we are born, we are guided by parents, teachers, mentors, and society. But there comes a time when you must take ownership of your own direction. Many people wait for others to show them the way, or they blame circumstances when progress does not happen. But this mindset creates dependency, and dependency limits freedom. True self-education begins when you accept full responsibility for your growth, when you stop saying, I could not learn because no one taught me, and instead say, I will learn because I choose to. It is a simple shift in perspective, yet it is one of the most powerful. For as long as you wait for someone else to open the door for you, you remain outside. But once you decide to open it yourself, you realize the key has always been in your own hands. Responsibility means that you no longer make excuses, no longer postpone growth, and no longer rely on external conditions to improve yourself. You become the architect of your own learning. In martial arts training, this principle becomes visible very quickly. A master can show the techniques, but he cannot practice for you. He can correct your posture, but he cannot generate your discipline. Many students expect the teacher to transform them, but the teacher is only a guide, not a substitute. The effort, the sweat, the discipline, these cannot be borrowed. They must come from you. Responsibility for growth means understanding that others can inspire you, but they cannot replace your effort. If you wish to gain strength, you must practice daily. If you wish to gain wisdom, you must reflect deeply. If you wish to gain clarity, you must discipline your mind. In this way, responsibility is empowering because it shifts the power back into your hands. Instead of waiting, you act. Instead of depending, you create. Instead of hoping, you commit. And over time, this self-responsibility becomes the root of resilience, the ability to keep moving forward regardless of circumstances. Taking responsibility for your growth also means becoming conscious of the choices you make every day. Learning is not only about books and teachers, it is about habits, environments, and the way you spend your time. If you spend your days in distraction, then you are educating yourself in distraction. If you spend your days in negativity, then you are training your mind to see only what is dark. But if you dedicate even a small portion of your day to meaningful practice, whether it is reading, writing, meditating, or reflecting, you are building a foundation for lifelong learning. Responsibility means asking yourself, what am I feeding my mind today? What am I practicing? What am I cultivating? Because what you repeat daily becomes what you embody. No one else can choose this for you. Even if others encourage or discourage, the decision ultimately belongs to you. To be responsible for growth is to see clearly that every small choice you make is shaping the person you are becoming. There is also humility in this responsibility. It requires you to admit that if you are not growing, it is not because the world is unfair, but because you have not yet acted fully. This does not mean blaming yourself harshly or carrying guilt. It means embracing accountability with clarity and strength. The person who takes responsibility does not waste energy complaining, because he knows that every challenge carries a lesson if he is willing to engage with it. He does not wait for the perfect teacher or the perfect time, because he knows that both are illusions. Growth is available in every moment, but only if he decides to take it. And this is where responsibility becomes a form of freedom. When you accept that no one else is responsible for your growth, you free yourself from waiting and you begin to move. This is the essence of self-education, to stop being a passive receiver of knowledge and to become an active seeker of wisdom. One of the greatest misconceptions about growth is the belief that it must happen through dramatic leaps, sudden breakthroughs, or extraordinary events. People look at the achievements of great thinkers, artists, or martial masters and imagine that these individuals reached their heights through a single act of brilliance or a stroke of luck. But in truth, mastery is built in silence, in consistency, and in patience. A single step may seem insignificant, but when repeated daily, it becomes the foundation of transformation. The person who reads one page every day will know more after 1 year than the person who waits for the perfect time to read an entire book. The individual who practices one form daily will, after a decade, embody it fully, while the one who trains only in bursts will remain unsteady. Small steps are not small when you recognize their cumulative power. They are the rhythm of progress, the hidden force behind every great achievement. In martial arts, this principle is visible in every training hall. Students often wish to learn advanced techniques quickly, skipping the basics because they appear too simple. But the master knows that only through daily repetition of fundamentals can one reach true skill. The small step of correcting a stance, of breathing properly, of aligning the body, these details appear minor, but they shape the entire foundation of practice. Without them, techniques collapse. Similarly in life, it is not the occasional bursts of inspiration that shape you, but the quiet consistency of daily habits. Waking up on time, keeping promises, dedicating a few minutes to reflection or reading. These may seem ordinary, but they build discipline, focus, and resilience. When the storms of life arrive, it is not grand gestures that hold you steady, but the small repeated practices you cultivated over years. Small steps are the roots. Without them, the tree cannot stand. The challenge most people face is impatience. In a world that celebrates speed, we have forgotten the slow rhythm of steady growth. We want instant results, instant recognition, instant change, but life does not unfold according to the pace of our impatience. Nature itself teaches this. The bamboo tree, for example, spends years growing invisible roots underground before it suddenly shoots up into the sky. If you judged its progress in the first few years, you would think nothing is happening. But in truth, the small, unseen steps of root building are preparing it for sudden growth. In the same way, when you dedicate yourself to small steps daily, you may not see results immediately. Others may not notice. But beneath the surface, something strong and unshakable is being formed. And when the time comes, your growth will appear unstoppable, not because it was sudden, but because it was patiently prepared. Small steps also teach humility. They remind us that greatness is not achieved by rushing ahead, but by respecting the process. To commit to small steps each day is to acknowledge that mastery cannot be forced, only cultivated. This is why many people give up on self-education. They underestimate the value of consistency. They believe that if they cannot dedicate hours, it is not worth doing at all. But this is an illusion. 10 minutes of practice every day is better than 1 hour of practice once a month. A single mindful breath, repeated daily, has more impact than occasional meditations done in haste. The power of small steps lies not in their size, but in their constancy. When you build this rhythm into your life, growth becomes inevitable. Small steps accumulate into strength, and strength transforms into mastery. This is how the human spirit evolves, not through one great leap, but through the discipline of countless small steps, walked with patience and persistence. When people think of education, they often imagine the accumulation of knowledge, facts, skills, and information that can be measured, tested, and displayed. But true education is not complete if it only sharpens the intellect while leaving the spirit untouched. Growth of the mind and spirit means that learning transforms not only what you know but also who you are. A person who reads many books but remains arrogant has gained information but not wisdom. A person who learns techniques but lacks patience has acquired skills but not depth. To educate the mind without educating the spirit is like watering the leaves of a tree while ignoring its roots. The balance of both is essential. The mind gives direction, clarity, and structure. The spirit gives humility, compassion, and endurance. Together they create harmony. Self-education practiced daily is not only about filling the mind but about shaping the inner character. It is about becoming not just a knowledgeable person but a wise and balanced human being. Growth of the mind is built through discipline, reflection, and curiosity. The mind must be stretched with challenges, exposed to new ideas, and trained to see beyond its comfort zone. This requires deliberate effort, reading deeply, questioning assumptions, learning from those with different perspectives. But while the mind expands through learning, the spirit grows through experience. To face suffering with courage, to forgive when it is difficult, to endure hardship without bitterness, these are lessons of the spirit. They are not found in textbooks but in the living classroom of life. The mind can be taught in a day, but the spirit requires years of practice, patience, and humility. When both are cultivated together, the individual becomes centered, not easily shaken by success or failure, not trapped by pride or fear. This balance is what makes a person truly strong. The growth of mind and spirit also requires humility, the recognition that no matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. A wise person never claims mastery over life, because life is infinite in its lessons. The spirit teaches us that knowledge is not for domination but for service. What use is intelligence if it creates division? What use is wisdom if it only feeds the ego? A balanced education turns knowledge into compassion and transforms learning into responsibility. It teaches us not only how to think but how to live with integrity. The martial artist who trains only the body but neglects the spirit becomes dangerous. But the one who cultivates both becomes a protector, a guide, a source of peace. Growth of the spirit ensures that education is not shallow but rooted in values that uplift both yourself and those around you. Finally, growth of the mind and spirit is not a destination but a journey that unfolds daily. Each moment offers an opportunity to refine thought and deepen character. The mind grows when you choose focus over distraction, reflection over ignorance. The spirit grows when you choose patience over anger, kindness over indifference, humility over pride. Together, these daily choices form the essence of self-education. It is not about perfection but about direction, a commitment to becoming more aware, more balanced, more compassionate with each passing day. The mind gives you the tools to understand the world, while the spirit gives you the strength to walk through it with dignity. And so the daily practice of self-education is not just about expanding what you know but about elevating who you are becoming. The essence of daily self-education is commitment. It is not about occasional inspiration or temporary motivation. It is about creating a rhythm that you honor every single day. Too often people make grand plans, declaring that they will change their lives overnight. They begin with passion but soon the energy fades, and so does the practice. The truth is, growth is not built on sudden bursts of effort. It is built on commitment, the willingness to show up even when you don't feel like it. Daily commitment is not glamorous. It does not always bring immediate rewards. but it is precisely this quiet persistence that transforms a life. The person who reads for 10 minutes every morning will, over years, develop wisdom that far surpasses the one who waits for the perfect time to begin. The individual who dedicates even a few breaths to mindful reflection each day will cultivate calmness that others spend a lifetime chasing. A daily commitment is not about how much you do, but about how consistently you do it. This is why monks, martial artists, and practitioners of discipline across the world live by routines. The repetition is not meant to restrict freedom, but to deepen mastery. A daily practice repeated over months and years sinks beneath the surface and becomes part of who you are. At first you are practicing the discipline, but over time the discipline begins to practice you. It shapes your character, your thinking, your choices. Daily commitment means that you no longer rely on fleeting feelings to determine your actions. Whether you are motivated or not, whether conditions are easy or difficult, you still return to the practice. This constancy builds strength, just as a stone is polished by the flow of water. No single drop makes the difference, but the steady rhythm over time creates transformation. To commit daily is to recognize that greatness is not the result of intensity but of consistency. A daily commitment also means making peace with imperfection. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, or discouraged. There will be days when the practice feels heavy or the results invisible. Yet this is precisely when commitment matters most. Many people abandon their path because they mistake difficulty for failure. But commitment teaches you that difficulty is part of the process. It shows you that progress is not linear. Sometimes you advance, sometimes you stumble, but the important thing is that you keep showing up. In this way, a daily commitment trains not only your discipline, but also your resilience. It builds an inner strength that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. The act of returning again and again, despite obstacles, forges a spirit that is unbreakable. Commitment is not about never falling, it is about always rising. And in this rising you become stronger, more focused, more grounded. Most importantly, a daily commitment transforms the way you see time. Instead of viewing each day as ordinary, you begin to see it as an opportunity. You no longer wait for special occasions or dramatic events to grow. You realize that every single day contains the possibility of learning, practicing, and becoming better. This changes your relationship with life itself. The small ordinary moments become meaningful because you understand that they are shaping your future. Reading a page, writing a thought, practicing a form, sitting in silence. These may seem small, but over years they shape your mind, body, and spirit. Daily commitment is the bridge between intention and transformation. Without it, even the best intentions fade into dreams. With it, even the smallest practices grow into powerful realities. A life built on daily commitment is not dependent on chance or external forces. It is a life that steadily, quietly, and unshakably grows stronger each day. When we look back at the path of self-education, we see that it is not built on extraordinary events, but on ordinary days, lived with awareness. Education beyond school reminds us that life itself is the classroom. Responsibility for growth shows us that no one else can walk the path for us. The power of small steps teaches us that progress comes from consistency, not from speed. Growth of the mind and spirit shows us that true learning must transform not just what we know, but who we are. And finally, a daily commitment anchors all of these truths into action, ensuring that knowledge is not temporary, but becomes part of our being. The beauty of this journey is that it does not demand perfection, it only asks for sincerity. Every day we are given 24 hours. Some of that time will pass in work, in rest, in the flow of responsibilities. But even within that, there is always space for growth. A page to read, a thought to reflect upon, a moment to breathe with awareness. These small acts carried out daily are like drops of water. Alone they may seem insignificant, but over time they carve valleys, they move mountains, they shape who we become. So do not wait for tomorrow. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Do not wait for someone else to carry you forward. Begin today with what you have, where you are. The commitment you make to yourself each day will become your greatest strength. Self-education is not a destination, but a lifelong journey, one that brings clarity to the mind, resilience to the body, and peace to the spirit. And when you walk this path with consistency, humility, and courage, you will discover that the power to transform your life has always been within you.